Hey, this is Dirk Verbjorn from Megadeth, and you are watching Behind the Kit.
Megadeth is good. Back in my day, Megadeth was the only band that I heard that didn't have the same repetition and boring old riffs. If I could ask the drummer of Megadeth any question, what would it be? B. 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 So, just wanted to say thanks to Dirk for helping us out with these questions. We are at USANA Amphitheater here in Salt Lake City, Utah, and we got Megadeth up on the stage setting up. So, real quick, we're going to ask Dirk a few questions. So first off, thanks again for doing this for me.
My pleasure.
So how did the opportunity come about with Megadeth?
Well, so initially it was Chris Adler, their drummer at the time. He reached out to me and asking me about my schedule, and next thing I know, I got a call from management. So, at that point I knew, okay, this is probably something to do with Megadeth, because they were asking me if I had some time to talk to Dave. And so, I definitely owe this to Chris, and we've been friends since touring together back in, I think it was 2007. Soulwork opened for Lamb of God and Killswitch Engage on a big US tour, and always stayed in touch. And Chris has said that had told me at the time that if he ever needed somebody, I would be on top of his list. And yeah, so that, I'm very thankful that he called me.
What's your favorite Megadeth album?
I have to say He Sells But Who's Buying, which is the first one that I got. At the time, I remember I went to a little stall in a little town in France at the time where I was living that had some secondhand vinyl, and I saw that cover. Didn't know the band. I just thought this must be cool, and it was. Back in the day, you would buy albums just based on the cover art. So,
who are your main drum influences?
Well, I started listening to metal in the mid '80s, and so first it would be all the thrash metal drummers like Dave Lombardo, Lars Ulrich, Charlie Benante, obviously Gar Samuelsson as well. And later on, a few years later, I started listening to more extreme stuff like Napalm Death, Mick Harris, Pete Sandoval from Morbid Angel and Terrorizer, all those bands, Obituary, you name it, like that whole scene that kind of exploded in the late 80s there. That was a huge influence as well. And it's around that time that I actually got my first drum kit and started playing. So, yeah.
What's your favorite song to perform?
Probably I would say Wake Up Dead. Just, that's one of the first songs I heard by the band. It's got some great drum grooves. I really like that one. But they're all fun to play. It's I see the set kind of as a whole. It kind of covers different eras of the band, and every song kind of has its place. So in that sense, they're all enjoyable. And obviously, I'm playing with three of the best musicians in the world. So you never get bored, even for songs that are a little bit more stripped down drum wise. It's so much fun to just lock in together. Yeah. Yeah, we've been here for a while, but you know we have to wait for Scorpions to get all their stuff in, and they have kind of a big stage, so we can't get in until they're done. So you know it takes a while, but you know that's what happens when you're supporting. It's cool, you know. It's an honor to be here. It's a great tour, and playing with these legends, can't complain.
Okay, so what music are you listening to recently?
Always a bunch of different stuff. You know, my playlist is pretty covers different styles. I listen to a lot of electronic stuff. Stuff like recently I was listening to a lot of Aphex Twin, obviously a bunch of metal. Actually, New Paradise Lost was what I was listening to last night. That one's really good. Really enjoyed that one. My friend Walteri, who's their new drummer, is a Finnish kid. I actually got to know him some years ago because he was posting some Soilwork covers online. And really great drummer, you know, young cat, but really talented. And I'm really happy to see him both with Paradise Lost and Val on Fire. So you know, it's good to see the young generation kicking ass. You know.
What has been your favorite city or state to play?
Oh man, yeah, I don't know, man. I really don't have any favorites, to be honest. It's yeah, every show is a pleasure. I don't really mind. Like we've played last December, we played a tiny club in New York called St. Vitus Bar, which was like probably 250, 300 top capacity. And then we play these huge arenas which hold up to like 20, 25,000 people sometimes. So they're all fun, you know, it's different vibes, but I just love being on stage. I mean, drumming is what I love doing, so every show is a blast for me.
What's your favorite drum track you've ever written?
Probably something from the Scarve days, I would say, because that was my first band. You know, we really did the songwriting, a lot of it we did together in the rehearsal room, so it was a very organic process in that way. And I remember some songs even being, you know, kind of being born from the drum ideas. So I would probably say Asphyxiate by Scarve is one of my favorite ones, because I remember that was the drum groove that I had, which kind of spawned the song. So, nice. So yeah.
How did your signature snare come about?
Well, I've been working with Tom at Drums, who makes the snare, since actually mid-90s. You know, I started kind of early on with him when I became a drum teacher in France, where I lived at the time. And so we've had a really good relationship over the years. It's a great brand, but they're also, you know, besides making a great product, they're also really awesome in their, you know, the way they deal with their endorsees like myself. And so when I joined Megadeth last year, that idea came about. I was like, it would be cool to do something special for Megadeth fans. And I just started playing this new snare called Dynamic Bronze. And so I said, why don't we make a signature version? And Tama embraced the idea right away, and it's a great snare. I mean, I play it live, so you know, it's not just something. Yeah, it's not just something that I did just to sell it. It's really what I enjoy and what I like, and I actually have been getting some feedback from people who bought it who really love it. One of the people today actually posted a video online of him trying it out and being stoked. So yeah, it's a great snare. You know, I mean, Tama makes top quality products. And I made a point of keeping it affordable as well. Some signature snares are quite expensive. I figured, you know, I come from buying all my stuff when I was young and seeing how expensive it is to be a drummer, so I kept it affordable. You know.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You only made 30, right?
Yes, and there was only 30 made in this first run. It's kind of a test run to see, you know, if people are actually interested, but it's selling really well. So, you know, maybe we'll do more. We'll see. Yeah. Yeah.
If you could give any advice to drummers who are hoping to make it, what would that be? Okay, guys, if you're any type of musician, you need to listen to this next answer that Dirk gives. It has nothing to do with being a drummer. It has everything to do with the music business and how you get to where you want to be. Pay attention.
Well, if I look back at how it went for me, I think probably the biggest advice is to really persevere, first of all, because it can take a while. I mean, I joined Megadeth, I was 41. You know, I've been drumming since I was 16, so it took a while for me to get, you know, to this place where I am today. And if I had given up at any time, which there were many opportunities for me to be like, you know, this isn't making me any money, this isn't working, I quit, you know. But my love for music was always so strong that I always found ways to make it work. Even when I had side jobs, other things I was doing, I was also really digging into how does the music business work? Like, what do I need to learn about this besides just obviously playing drums is an important part, being a good musician, but there's also everything else, you know, which probably makes up 80% of what you need to learn is the music business. Like, how can I, you know, understand how things work, how can I further my career. It takes a lot of different things. So I learned about, obviously being a drum teacher. I learned about how to run a band. In Soilwork, I was really involved with managing the band for the last 5-6 years I was in the band. So it's, that was a big learning process. Everything from making budgets to setting up a tour to dealing with labels, management, all that stuff I learned. So I think over time that started giving me an edge to, how to present myself. Nowadays you got the internet, which is a huge benefit for young people to get their names out there, but you really have to learn how to manage that and how to present yourself and how to have a good presence and a good networking. So it's all these different things that kind of come together to it's a lot of work. It's not just sitting behind your drums and playing. It's really about the business. And so I would say do your research. Get in touch with people, meet people as much as you can. I started out early in my early years, back when I was still a teenager. I would go to shows and try to talk to the bands and ask them questions like, how do you guys set up the show? Like, how does the tour work? Stupid things that, you don't really think about when you're young, but I was interested to find out how I could do that stuff for my own band. And so a lot of times those guys would give super helpful advice. People from like Loud Blast, the French band, I remember talking to guys from Corner, and those people would be like, yeah, you can try this, you can do that. And so over the years it built up, so that's the biggest thing. Persevere, dig into everything. Don't just be a musician. See it as your own personal kind of business.
Cool. So your double bass technique, tell me about it.
I started early on. I think as soon as I had a drum kit, probably 2 months later, I had it on a second kick drum that a buddy of mine at the time had laying around. And he's like, I'm not using it if you want to have a second kick drum. I'm like, sure, yeah. So, but over the years, I've worked a lot on my technique because I think throughout the early 2000s, I was playing and I could play pretty fast and pretty consistently, but it was physically too much of a struggle. So a lot of times it would wear me out faster than I liked. And so I would say about 7-8 years ago, I really started digging into how can I make this easier for myself. So, and it's all about technique, in that case. So I looked up a lot of videos, I talked to a lot of different drummers and just have been working on it ever since to improve it. So nowadays I can achieve the same result with a lot less energy and just, more focused effort. So for me, it's a fun thing. I love playing double bass, and so it's in my daily practice routine. I always warm up before every show. Even with Megadeth, I always do warm-ups, and I'm always doing double bass.
If you could take lessons from any drummer, dead or alive, who would it be?
Definitely Dave Lombardo, just because he was one of my main influences.
What's your favorite toy or thing on your kit right now?
My signature snare, because that's brand new.
Yeah. When did you start performing with gloves?
So I have a good story in connection to that. We were touring with Soilwork. I believe this was 2005, late 2005, and we had a show in Hamburg. And my hands at the time, I wasn't using my gloves. My hands were so beaten up, bloody. I had blisters, both hands, just from playing every night. And during sound check, I just couldn't hold my sticks. And I was like, sorry guys, like I don't know, I can't play the show. So our opening band ended up headlining, and we just sat on the stage and signed autographs, all because of me. So I was like, okay, I need to do something here. This is not good. So I felt horrible. I was embarrassed, and I felt bad for the band, for the fans who paid to come and see us. And so at that moment is when I was like, okay, I got gloves. Took me a while to get used to them because it's obviously a different feel, but over time now what I do too is I bandage like some key parts of my fingers underneath the gloves, and I also use stick wrap, just because I don't know, I guess I have kind of an unorthodox way of holding my sticks in a way, like maybe not the best technique, because I started out self-taught, so I was just kind of doing what I felt, and I never really properly focused on that until I was used to playing the way I played. So I just use what I need now. The stick wrap helps a lot with the grip as well, and so now I have no more problems. It's super rare that I have the slightest blister. So yeah.
Do you have like your own signature gloves or?
No, I use the Tama drummer's glove. I do have signature sticks with Tama, but the gloves, I just use the model they have, which works great for me. So.
What's the worst drum malfunction you've ever had?
Let's see. I remember falling from the stage one time. That was pretty
That's pretty
hilarious.
bad.
Yeah. You know, in the middle of a song, all of a sudden, like, where's the drummer? You know.
Oh my god.
That was pretty bad. I didn't get hurt, fortunately,
Good.
but it was pretty embarrassing. That was in the early Scarve years, and
Is there video of that?
I don't think so. It was a tiny show. I don't think there was any video. Unfortunately, it would be fun to see. Now looking back, you know, at the time I was probably not that stoked about it.
I bet. Do you prefer being on tour or in the studio?
They each have their, you know, pros and cons. Touring is fun, the traveling aspect, playing live. There's nothing that beats playing live, really. Just the exchange of the energy with people is the best thing, you know. I mean, especially with Megadeth, we're fortunate. We always have an amazing crowd. I mean, so, you know, when that happens, it's just, you know, you just have a blast. Like, there's no way you can't, you know, even if there's, like you said, if there's a malfunction or the sound is, something's wrong, whatever, it doesn't matter. You always have a blast when people are having a blast. But studio is great because, you know, it allows you to get creative, you know, and the whole writing process, recording process, it's something that I enjoy thoroughly as well. And we're actually gearing up to kind of do that now with the band. I think this is probably our last big tour before seriously getting into the songwriting process. So, you know, good times. Yeah. I like them both.
Cool. Well, Dirk, thanks so much again. I really
Thank you.
appreciate it. Well, thanks for watching, guys. That was my interview with Dirk from Megadeth.
Next time on Behind the Kit.
All right, guys, it's my turn. Let's go behind my kit.